Hey everybody, it's Mark Pereira here to make a big announcement, talk about some of the stuff we've got going on. Been working on having a lot of great discussions with people, talking about different ideas. I really am starting to feel like heathenry is starting to take steps to move forward, right? That we're getting, a lot of us are starting to get past the ins and outs of material things and start to focus more on the spirituality, on the religion, on asking the big questions, right? And so with that, I want to announce the publication of our newest book called the Odisbook, or Odisbook, the Book of Odor, right? And in this, we're breaking down an entire philosophy. This is advanced philosophy. This is stuff where we're talking about the big questions here, answering those questions, answering ideas, presenting ideas on how we believe these different things and looking at it and how we can make arguments against monotheism and how we can make arguments for what we believe. So the idea is to give us a system, right? And that system for us, for what I do, for what I believe, for what I think, for my path, right? And for the path of many people who are jumping on board with the epic school and epicism, is the foundation of a hierology, and that's sacred text, sacred lore stuff, sacred materials that we can start with, and everything starts with that, right? So we look at like morality. We've talked about that before. Morality is it has to be connected to the eschatology. Eschatology has to be connected to cosmology, and cosmology has to be connected to hierology. Basically, the idea is that your morals must have a standard. They must have something that holds you accountable to them. And that's where eschatology comes in, the belief in the afterlife, right? That when you die, good stuff or bad stuff happens based upon your erlag or karma on how you existed in the world. This is dharma. This is like the same thing the Hindus have. This is following the law, following the concepts of order and the principles behind that, all right? And then you have the cosmology connects to that because the underworld has a cosmology. Then that has to connect to the hierology, which is the myths, the stories, the lore. So that's what we're doing, and that's what this next book is all about. This is our philosophy. The nature of Asatru, we wrote a long time ago, was basically the idea that we would just create a primer, a book that would just introduce people to what we believe, introduce people to the basic concept of this. This is more of like a 202 book. This is more of like a little bit more advanced where like you can start looking at this as a spiritual system and something that you can build and create arguments that will destroy Christians and destroy monotheists every single time. I mean, this is something that we put together that we basically just threw everything but the kitchen sink in, and it's the idea that we're building something, right, that goes over the cycles of life, the cycles of existence. The entire book is written like that. It goes over that entire cycle from birth to life to death to rebirth and fate and the gods, and how all of these things play in our lives and how this connects to us, how we answer these questions, what happens after we die, what happens to our ancestors, when they were Christians, what happens to our family members, how do we connect to each other, how do we help one another, how do we benefit our community, how do we grow, how do we, do and develop all of these ideas that allows us to have a true spiritual system. And we're not just talking about like trying to be gurus or trying to tell you what to do or dictate your path or anything like that. It's to give you the tools so that you can develop your philosophy and you can see what it is that we believe. You can see what it is that you can glean from the Asatru Edda, from the Odinist Edda, from all of this. So now we're going to start to see our system, the epic system, start to come together. We're going to see it start to manifest itself in a way that gives you a religion, a real spirituality. Not LARPing, not trying to be an anachronist, not trying to delve yourself into the ancient, 10th century systems or anything like that. This is taking what we have left over, and building a true spiritual system that we can practice for today, that lives for us and connects us to our ancestors, connects us to the ancient ways, but also shows us how we can live today, right? And how we can look towards the future. And it starts to ask all these, all the questions, all the big questions concerning hierology, concerning philosophy, concerning eschatology, cosmology, all of the big ologies that we have out there. Paganism or heathenry was the foundation of all science. All science comes from our beliefs. And that's why we look at things like immanent divinity and formulaic fatalism and elemental mythology and all of these different ideas that manifest themselves throughout our stories, and then we can start to see a philosophy unfold, right? So this is your philosophy. This is the philosophy for our folk. This is the philosophy that our ancestors gave to us and that we can glean from. And we can look at how, like, the Greeks did the same thing. And we can look at how the Hindus have done the same thing. And we can see how these things connect to one another and how it builds a system. I gave people a while back, a metaphor on our Northern Society forums where I was talking about how you make a cake, right? And the metaphor of all of this, okay? So when you're looking at making a cake, you want to have all of the ingredients in play, okay? All of the ingredients are like the eggs and the sugar and the flour, and then you want to have the icing on top. Now, what we believe and how a lot of things have been manifested for so long is that people have been sort of just trying to build something out of just the icing, right? Now, icing is good. We love icing. Icing is great. You want to gorge on it. It's fantastic. It's sweet, tastes good. Eat icing, right? But at some point, you're going to want the cake. You're going to be like, where's my cake at, right? And when we look at that, the eggs and the flour and the sugar and all the thing that takes to actually make a cake, we're looking at the ingredients of what is a religion, okay? What is a religion? Religion must have cosmology. It must have hierology. It must have eschatology. It must have philosophy. It must have epistemology. It must have all of these different things that we can work out and glean to answer the big questions and help one another and work towards one another and build communities and establish a folk heritage that we can have for us. And that's what we have to do, and that's what we have to build upon. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about how much we look at the Indo-Europeans. A lot of times, whenever I have big questions, I always go ask my Hindu buddies, "What do you guys think on this?" We had a big discussion on the Norna forums today about fatalism, right? And I went to after that, I was really curious about how the Hindus believe that. How does karma connects to fatalism? How do fatalistic systems exist in the modern world? And they came to me and they pretty much agreed with a lot of what we're saying about that. About fatalism is the connection of all things. It is dharma. It is the idea that we're all building this sort of spiritual collective and see that as part of the universe. And we don't control that collective, and we play our part in it. But it's just a role. It's just something that we play, and we're all bound to it. And we don't control it. That's determinism, right? But anyway, there's a lot of philosophy on here. There's a lot of things that we're going to debate. There's a lot of things that we're going to discuss. And it's good that we debate them. We want to debate them. We want people to have differing opinions and different views and different ideas. This book is meant to get the conversation started. It's meant to be there for you to debate, look at the ideas, debate them in your head, figure out arguments for yourselves, figure out all the different ways that you can build this. And there's going to be arguments that you have. I mean, fatalism is an Indo-European idea. I'm sorry, that's what it is. I mean, it's represented in every single Indo-European system that's ever existed. And But we can talk about that. We can talk about all these different ideas, read the book, get an idea of what we're doing, look at how we're building this, and understand everything that we do, right? And understand what heathenry is and how we're developing this from the lore, from the hierology, from our understanding of this, from science, from all the different ideas of this. Fatalism is basically the idea of the web of weird, okay? It's the idea that everything is interwoven and all connected to one another. So you have the web of weird, the web of destiny, and it all basically means that you are leading on a path. And your path is your path, but it's all based on the order of things and the order of the gods and the connection to all that. So that's what it is. And so there's a fate, there's an idea that you throw things out there and things come back at you. And so it's a big deal for us to have these discussions. It's so much better for us to be talking about these things. And it gets, I'm sorry, but it just gets me so excited when I see you guys asking these questions, when I see you want to debate. I don't care how mad you get. Get mad, get fired up. Because for me, it's better than us to just sit there and constantly go over the ins and outs of the political world today. You know, that gets so tiring and gets so old and doesn't go anywhere and doesn't help anybody and doesn't do anything, right? And so it's like, let's start talking about this stuff. This is our spirituality. This is our culture. This is our heritage, you know, and this is how we move forward. And you look at like some of the other systems like Hinduism and Shinto and stuff like that, they've been having those discussions for centuries. And this gets the conversation started, okay? So thanks for everybody for listening. Check this out. I'm putting the link to the Odisbook in the description of this, and there's the blurb that's on the back cover, and you can see that. And it's not the Odin's book, it's Odisbook. So it's not the book of Odin, it's the book of Oder, right? And there's a complete description on the philosophy of that, what it means, how it works. And so, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I'm excited about this, and we've got more projects coming, more things we're working on. We're still working on our academy. We're working on Kvassar Academy, which is our online university. I'm building all the courses for that, doing all kinds of things. Our videos that we're making on the mythological schools of thought. Oh man, I can't wait to show you guys this stuff. This stuff is just brutal. It's so fun to do these videos because we're going to have a 6-part series, and I'm doing all this research, and some of this stuff is just so damning. I'm telling you, just wait. But we're going to keep pushing that stuff out. We got a lot of stuff coming on. The Arvidsson project. I was wanting to get this Odisbook out of the way and get back on the Arvidsson project so we can bring back our folk songs and all that stuff, Yeah, so check out what we're doing. Keep up with the Norna Society. Subscribe to our channel here. Like this page, like our Facebook page, check everything out, and you can keep up with all these discoveries, all these different things. It all begins with a hierology, and once we got the hierology, it allowed us to continue moving forward and building these systems, and these systems are going to get more advanced, more vast, they're going to connect to more people, and are going to create an actual spiritual system for us to live by that will rival anything that we see in any other culture across the world.